everyone! Welcome back to Drawn by Any channel, where I'm showcasing my art process as well as yapping about different topics. So grab your drinks and let's get started! Wow, that was a quick introduction. Because I'm very excited today as I'm working on the second part of the Soul Calibur project. If you haven't checked part 1, go check it out on my channel because it's featuring the original design of the Siegfried from Soul Calibur, and today I'm going to finish the second part of it where I imagined him in the Lyria world, my very own fantasy art project. So I went back and read a little bit about the plot of Soul Calibur and Siegfried's role in it, and that actually convinced me that I have chosen the right nation for him. I decided to make him into a Fortean, a nation that is coming from a bearded dragon roots. They're kind of dragons, but not really, more like lizards. And since Siegfried happened to be a bandit, which kind of happens to associate with violence, and Forteans are also a little bit associated with violence, actually a lot. So yeah, they're kind of a perfect match. Usually when I'm working on character fan art, I'm digging a little bit into their backstory because that gives me ideas on how they could be represented, especially if I'm quote-unquote reborning them into a Lyria world. Reborning, rebirthing, whatever. But sometimes I just go with the gut, or in this case I just went by the looks. A strong man that is wearing a heavy plated armor and wielding a double-handed sword. This is kinda one option situation. Or what other people call a no-brainer. Anyway, I wanted to satisfy my little ADHD monkey brain because I'm really into detailing and line art, and this literally is my hyperfix right now. And since we listen and don't judge on this channel and we are embracing our differences and quirks, I went full on into detail spree and decided to draw out every scale possible on this face, because Forteans, they have a lot of scales on their skin. I don't know if you have ever seen a bearded dragon, and if you haven't, go look up for some pictures. They're so freaking adorable. Anyway, that's not my point. My point is that their eyes are super scaly too, so I really wanted to make character race that has same detailed eyes, so I went for bearded dragon for Forteans. And for this specific artwork and version of Siegfried, I looked up for a macro zoom in picture of a bearded dragon's face and referenced it very heavily just to feature all the tiny little scales and little details on their eyes. And obviously I'm not gonna do that for every Fortean drawing that I'm going to make for Lyria world, but sometimes my artistic flow just drags me into this heavily detailed artworks. I'm kind of really proud of them too, you know. And in my humble opinion, those scales make him look really badass, but this type of armor makes him look like a hero rather, and that is where I get a little bit of a dissonance because he's a bandit, or at least used to be a bandit. I don't know, because maybe my bandit stereotype design is different in my head. They usually don't wear silver armors, but obviously I'm not gonna change this huge part of his original design. I'm just giving him a new race literally, because his original armor fits the fantasy setting as well. And now that I am working on it, I kind of feel like it's really similar to Githyanki from Baldur's Gate 3. Correct me in the comments if I've pronounced it wrong, but anyway. But I guess everything in this world is already invented, and whatever new comes up is probably just a very well forgotten thing from the past. So I'm not worried too much about it being similar to another thing out there. My main concern for it to look cool. So as always, my art process starts with a rough lining, and then I'm removing the sketch underneath just for it to have a little cleaner look. And as soon as I'm done with that, I'm diving right back with a more thought out line work, giving a line weight where it's needed, a thickened lines where the shaded areas are, or something that are resembling a bigger shape, and to add some volume here and there, my usual stuff, you know. And of course I'm taking all the sweet time making the details on his face. Siegfried is making a perfect Fortean for Lyria. And as I promised in the previous video and the first part of this project, I'm gonna demonstrate how I did the armor lines. Honestly, there is no rocket science behind this. His armor design has this these maple leaf looking parts on the chest part of the plate mail, and I'm kind of going from the center to the edges or backwards, whatever. So there is a thick line featuring the main shape of the part, and then I'm making a thin lines along the main line as if I'm following the curve. So the more lines you add, the more detailed it will look, and also the more lines you add on top of each other, the more like shaded part of the armor it would look like. So if you want to keep a light or highlighted area, you want to keep it either not lined at all or just a few thin lines. And you kind of have to follow the basic stuff like shadow, core shadow, reflected light and stuff like that. This is something that you pick up from the art books or art schools, and I'm not here to teach you that stuff. So I'm just trying to apply the knowledge from the book that I mentioned in part 1 as well, the framed drawing techniques by Marcos Mathieu Mestre. So if you're interested in that specific technique, you can check out that book. And meanwhile, I'm done with the tiny little lines on the artwork. I'm gonna go ahead and place some marker splashes here and there, and it's the same thing as the first part. So I'm just putting some splashes of ink on the shaded areas to emphasize the shaded areas basically, and leaving empty spaces where the highlights are supposed to be or where the light is going directly on top of. And same applies for the face and hair as well. And I wouldn't be me if I haven't forgotten a very important detail, which is a scar on his eye, but don't worry, I'm going to add that off cam. But that here is pretty much it. I hope that my little experience input is helpful to anyone, and I have a lot of fun rebirthing characters into my own fantasy project. Even if I'm not quite familiar with the character or haven't played the game, it still is a very nice artistic and creative exercise. And God, I enjoyed doing these little tiny lines for the line art and the detailing, and oh, I love that. And again, thanks for the patience. I'm trying my best to fulfill the requests as soon as possible, but life happens all the time and sometimes time is very limited. But I really appreciate all of your requests and comments and support and likes and subscriptions. So if you want to support me, just keep on doing that. Oh, and check out my other social media. I post stuff there too. I thank you for joining me on my yapping adventure today. Wishing you a fantastic day ahead and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.